Come with me, I'll tell a story that you might have heard before. Graphically novel, but the same old trouble. Villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome to Graphically Novel. My name is Josh Wasta, a.k.a. Fallout Fieri, and with me, as always, is the Karen Page to my Matt Murdock.
That brings up a whole different relationship that I need a lot more beer for.
It's beer!
Speaking of that relationship, I would like to start off this conversation right off the bat, considering the graphic novel that we chose,
which is Born Again, widely regarded as one of the Daredevil graphic novels, to Frank Miller graphic novel, and then, Mazzucchelli, maybe.
We apologize for butchering it.
Yes. This is the Daredevil story. You ask people who are in the know for Daredevil, you ask people that know Daredevil, Frank Miller did the definitive Daredevil.
Okay, so let's dive right into the first question then.
Sure.
Does Netflix put this series on TV with the Karen Page from the graphic novel?
Absolutely not. We are going to break our cardinal rule. There is too much in Born Again that is different than the series. Especially when it comes to Karen Page.
Yeah.
Karen Page is the catalyst. Karen Page is the reason that things happen.
Karen Page is a hooker and prostitute porn star and heroin addict, which fits right in with that whole I'm a good little Catholic and I'm trying to save a soul.
Now, in the series, when we started watching, because you were watching with Jen and I a little bit when the first season of Daredevil came out. You were over a couple times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm waiting for when we talk about Iron Fist, because I actually love the Netflix Iron Fist.
Possibly a season 3.
Obviously, I'm going to be the short end of the stick on that one, because apparently nobody else did. But
Karen Page, the very beginning of Born Again, it's in the first few pages, so this is not a huge spoiler. Karen Page was a character earlier in Daredevil. She was a heroin addict.
They were already dating before the graphic novel starts.
Right.
But then we find out that
she knows who Daredevil is. She knows that Daredevil is Matt Murdock, and she leaves Matt to become an actress. That is what happens in the comics. When
you don't find out until about a third or so of the way through this super thick graphic novel. Yeah, how many pages? 200 something?
So 176 pages.
I mean, so you find out somewhere probably about 50 or 60 pages in.
With a foreword, by the way, by Ralph Macchio.
Nice. Yes, Daniel-san.
You can find Born Again pretty easily. It is well known.
Yeah, but you find out fairly quickly that her movie star experience turns out to be she becomes a porn star.
Right. And she sells the identity of Daredevil for a shot of heroin in her arm.
For just a single fix.
And, of course, this information makes its way to Kingpin, and away we go in Born Again, where he systematically destroys Matt Murdock's life. We went right into Karen Page when you were coming over, and we were watching it. I don't know if you remember, I hated Karen Page, Season 1. And Karen Page, in the Netflix series, not really meant to be hated. I hope you understand now.
Deborah Ann Wall, who is amazingly attractive and was one of the main characters in True Blood. Amazing actress, has done a great job. She jumps over and I'm just like, ooh, who's that redhead? I know I've seen her from somewhere before. Oh, that series that I hated. Yeah.
Who's that blonde? She's blonde in this.
That's true.
She's a redhead in the other.
Daredevil, she's redhead in
True Blood. Great actress. No, I'm not saying anything about the actress. Reading Born Again, this character, I was just predisposed to hate.
That's fair. Having actually read that before you saw the series, unlike me that saw the series first and went, yes, this is awesome. Here's a different question on the whole Karen Page on Netflix. Can we start that way in the Netflix series and then redeem her to become the character that she basically starts out as, instead of being just a good little Midwest girl that shows up in New York and gets drugged and framed for murder. Spoiler alert for the series.
It's still season 1.
Yeah, it's still season 1, and it's the first couple seasons, so it's not a huge spoiler. But can we take that good little Midwest girl that runs into New York and has bad things happen to her and start her off as
a junkie?
A junkie that then becomes the Karen Page that we see throughout season, halfway through season 1, season 2, season 3 of Daredevil Netflix series.
On our Runaways episode, we discussed the Jaime Lannister situation a little bit. Jaime Lannister is probably modern media the best example of somebody that can kind of be redeemed. Now, we're excluding the finale because, goddamn it, Game of Thrones.
We're not bringing season 8
but
into this.
Jaime Lannister is a redeemable character. He's a villain that becomes a hero through his own choices.
Yes, we're talking about a character development story. Much
So-
like Pitch Black, which you walked out of.
I did walk out of Pitch Black because
That's
it's
another
a
episode.
horrible movie.
We'll have that fight later. Anyways.
Okay. There are hints already that she has a past.
But they abandon those
Right.
halfway through the season.
Right.
Can we start it gritty and still keep it on Netflix?
I think so. I think you can have that storyline.
Can we be a junkie? Can we be a prostitute? Can we be a porn star?
I think we should. I think that sex workers need representation in a lot of these
Absolutely.
shows, and that we need to destigmatize a lot of the things that we're
100%, yeah.
So I think there was an opportunity there. I don't know it has as much impact if you started that way. We just were flipping through Vudu, and I purchased Southland Tale, which is one of my favorites, and is a graphic novel, actually.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah.
This is season 3.
Might be a future episode. In it, Sarah Michelle Gellar plays a character who is a porn star trying to become, well, in that case, she's trying to become a pop star. I don't think Karen Page in the comic can be redeemed. I don't think that that is an arc that really would work with me.
I think that's fair, but I think the reason why is she is the impetus for the plot and does not develop a whole lot throughout that entire 170-odd page graphic novel, does not develop that much of the character just because you don't see her that much.
That's
As
true.
opposed to the Karen Page that we see in the Netflix series that has tons of room to grow and is a great actress already and probably had a really good contract that needed to be fulfilled.
I think if you start Karen Page in the Daredevil series as a sex worker, I also would not make her a junkie. I would just emphasize the sex worker, and I probably would actually have a arc not unlike Trish in Jessica Jones.
Oh, yeah.
I would have her become more and more invaluable, and you use the sex worker aspect.
Her contacts,
Yes.
the people that she's been with.
Right, but you also keep who Karen Page is in the show, where she is very much the compass. She's magnetic north.
Yeah,
not
she is
just
the moral
for
compass of the group. Yeah.
not just for Matt, but for Foggy as well.
Exactly.
One of the questions I had, in my own mind, there are two sidekick characters that, to me, are interchangeable. Foggy Nelson and Happy Hogan.
Oh, I was actually going to bring that up, because you've got Happy, who is,
Tony's sidekick.
yeah, Jon Favreau. And I look at that as one of those characters that was kind of redeemed, much like how you had in the Fantastic Four, the Human Torch, and he went on to become Captain America.
Oh, right. Okay, you're
Right.
talking actors. Okay.
Actors that had their
Right.
roles redeemed.
I'm like,
Sorry.
the Human Torch did not become Captain America.
Sorry.
But he did.
Yeah, the actors that had their roles redeemed.
Okay. So what was Jon Favreau before that was redeemed by Happy Hogan?
He was Foggy in the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
That's probably why I have that mixed in my head.
Right?
I didn't even realize
he was
that.
Foggy Nelson.
Oh my God, you're totally right. Oh yeah, my mind is blown.
I watched the original Daredevil, the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Did you watch the director's cut?
I don't know that I might.
Was there Coolio?
No. So So I did
Then
not
you did
see
not
the-
watch the
I
director's
did
cut.
not see the director's cut.
Oh my god,
But-
it's so much better.
Can I just rant for a
Yeah,
little bit on the Ben Affleck Daredevil and the cast power, the unopened, the unrefined cast power that they had in the Ben Affleck Daredevil? Because you were looking at Ben Affleck, who most people were just like, it's not that great, it's just another Ben Affleck movie. But then we had Batfleck
Much later, but
You
at
know?
the same time, as Kevin Smith would say, Ben Affleck can play anything. You're doing a new Jaws, Ben Affleck is the shark.
Awesome. We have Ben Affleck with Michael Clark Duncan. And
All right.
how awesome.
R.I.P. by the way.
Yeah, 2012. Age 54, we lost him. How does that change the graphic novel if we have a black Kingpin?
I thought about this, and actually one of my notes is comparing Vincent D'Onofrio's versus Michael Duncan Clark, but we'll get into that later. Michael Clark Duncan added a story to that character, because Kingpin is a big white dude, okay.
He's a big fat white dude. We've seen lots of big fat white dudes.
But-
all the time.
As D'Onofrio showed, he comes from poverty.
That was a great depth of character story.
Right. But
Going back to Michael Clark Duncan.
But you go back to Michael Clark Duncan, and you have the same story, but then you have elements of race, and you have elements of coming from non-privilege. So not only do you have poverty, but you have other aspects on top of that.
And you have somebody that's trying to rise above
Right.
all of this stuff.
They missed out on somehow bringing in, not the race element, because they kind of touch on that, but mostly this guy is the boss of bosses in New York. There are going to be people that fight that.
Does that element of black Kingpin in today's modern TV and cinema, does that fly?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it changes his story slightly. Obviously, you're looking at a Kingpin that came up differently because he had to deal with what all people of color deal with. But at the same time, no, it's the same story. D'Onofrio's and Michael Duncan Clark, other than race, is the same story. It's pulling yourself up from poverty. Can you imagine if they had done Vincent D'Onofrio's story with his father, with Michael Duncan Clark in that?
Oh my God. Especially him then sitting there in front of
The white painting.
a rabbit in a snowstorm.
Yeah. I thought the world was robbed not seeing that scene.
Okay, so we've already talked about Jon Favreau.
Yeah, Jennifer Garner.
Jennifer Garner as Elektra. Honestly, I think they really did so much better with Elodie Young.
In the series.
Let's not just whitewash this. But,
The best bullseye
right,
that has ever been.
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell
So
walking
much better.
into a bar with House of Pain playing. I know a lot of people do
And
not
he's
like
just drinking a beer and sidearm throwing darts and just bullseye, bullseye, bullseye.
I know a lot of people do not like this Daredevil movie. And I get it. And I'm saying you've only seen the regular cut. The director's cut is much better, and it still has bullseye. And this bullseye is amazing to me.
Actually, the one other character that I wanted to get to in the differences between the movie and the series is Ben Urich.
Yeah.
Because,
Another character that, by the way, in the series is the opposite, because Ben Urich in the comics is white.
yes,
Series was black.
movie was also white.
Yes.
Now, but I'm just looking at between the movie and the series because the series we have Bondi Curtis Hall, a black guy, and he does an amazing role. And I had totally forgotten about the movie when I'm watching him play Ben Urich, and I'm just like, this is just Ben Urich. I don't know anything else besides him at this point. But I want to talk about one of the most underrated actors ever from the Affleck movie, Joe Pantoliano. He was Cypher.
He's not that guy.
He's that guy. He's that side guy. He was in Memento. He was in all these other movies that he's just that side guy, and he's a brilliant actor. And so you look at the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie and you go, what happened?
I don't know.
All this star power, what happened?
I think in this, I will very hard go for the director's cut should have been what hit the theater.
Well, I said the same thing about a couple other movies too, like
Chronicles of Riddick.
Chronicles of Riddick, actually the director's cut of the Scorpion King makes the whole movie make sense. Otherwise, it's just a flaming pile of garbage.
Why I asked you about Coolio is in the Daredevil director's cut, he is working on a case that's a murder case. And you hear about that in the theatrical release, but you never see who it is. And it's Coolio. He is on trial for murder, and...
Oh, no, they briefly cover that, actually.
Yes, a little bit. Yeah.
Like, just a stuttering dude on the witness stand.
Yes, but in the director's cut, he actually is like, I was too stoned to kill anyone. So they go into it, and that's when Matt goes as Daredevil to go and interview a guy. He's not lying. He was not lying on the stand, so he goes and finds him and stops his car and is beating of him and trying to figure out why he didn't lie, and finds out he has a pacemaker.
Where you get that growth and development, and actually I think that comes in later in the movie, doesn't it?
Yes. They did it in a different way, but this whole storyline plays out, and it's Matt Murdock using Daredevil to be a lawyer is a big thing, but it's also, there are entire scenes of Matt Murdock going to a place as Matt Murdock, as the lawyer, where he has ways to get into places where, as Daredevil, he probably could, but it's easier to go in as Matt Murdock.
Sometimes it's just easier to be like, listen, I'm a lawyer.
Right, it's that Batman Bruce Wayne thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to be Bruce Wayne because it's just easier. It does a much better job of pointing that out.
Awesome.
We haven't talked about Charlie Cox at all.
No, we haven't.
Charlie Cox is in one of my favorite movies, Stardust. And then he pops up as the new Matt Murdock in the Daredevil series. But Charlie Cox versus Ben Affleck.
Charlie Cox all the way. I like Ben Affleck, and despite everybody else's opinions, I think he did a really good Batman. Well, he did a really great Bruce Wayne. His Batman suffered because of the writing.
Can we all just agree that the only person that did Batman and Bruce Wayne well was Keaton?
Yes, I will agree with you, Michael Keaton. I'm still a little bit of a fan of Christian Bale.
I get it, but...
that was a YouTube problem, I think. But, I mean, it's totally... Christian Bale did an okay job. He didn't do as good of a Wayne as he did a Batman, but when push came to shove, Keaton was both.
And then the Vulture. Just saying.
Oh!
Vulture.
Yeah, I forgot about that. No, 100%, yeah. That was amazing.
Yeah.
To see him come back again and just be like, oh...
And now I'm a villain.
You're on the Marvel side as a bad guy now. Oh my god, this is amazing.
We like to do a what if every episode.
Well, I've already had a couple, but what's your what if?
What if Affleck's movie had sold? What if it had been popular?
I think the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe would have been a lot more whitewashed.
Oh, okay.
Honestly.
You think they would have built off of that instead of Iron Man?
No, absolutely not. Because Robert Downey Jr. is a force of nature.
I get it.
There was nothing that was going to stop that from being the flagship of the MCU.
Can you see Affleck's Daredevil beside everyone, though?
Honestly, I think that would have been an ego fight. He would have been fighting for more screen time than he deserved. And on top of that, I really wish we would have seen Charlie Cox pop up somewhere in either Infinity War or Endgame. The crossover, just to get his head in.
And as we discussed in The Runaways, there's a 2-year bar where you can't use them anywhere else.
One of the things I loved about the Netflix Defenders elements and the Defenders series, Rosario Dawson. She pops up. So you got Carrie Ann Moss crossing over, you've got Rosario Dawson crossing over, you've even got Foggy's character, Eldon Henson, crossing over in multiple of those series. And that was great for me, just to be able to see all of these elements that I'm just now getting to know. I still haven't read comics I've read Alias, I've read Daredevil, I haven't read anything on Luke Cage, I haven't read anything on Iron Fist, I haven't read any of the Defender stuff, but I'm already seeing this wonderful crossover, and I love it. And I get it, yeah, it's a big contract issue, but let's do some forethought and planning and put this stuff in.
With the Russo brothers who are in charge of the trajectory of through Endgame, actually did interviews and they said TV stuff doesn't exist to us because there were a lot of questions about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I know I go on about because I love that
Well, I
series.
think we've had that conversation once before, too, because aren't those properties owned by different people? Like
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on ABC, which is owned by Disney. There is no reason that there can't be
Oh, so it's just these different CEOs that don't like each other that...
I much prefer in the beginning when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. directly would bounce off of the movie.
Yeah, that was great. That was part of the reason why I fell in love. Like, you got 12 episodes.
Yep.
You gotta sit through 12 episodes.
You gotta sit through 12.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You gotta build the
amazing.
world before you can break the world. That is a Buffy original. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. hits points where you're very frustrated with it because you're like, this is not the show that I started watching. But by the end of that arc, all of it comes around. Every single time.
I still don't think the whole VR sim world was worth the payoff.
Was inspired?
Don't get me wrong. You give me the first 3 episodes and the last 3 episodes, I thought those were amazing. Everything else in the middle, I was just like, can we move this along?
So let me ask you, did you watch Jessica Jones Season 2?
Yes.
Did you notice at the end of Born Again, the character that popped up in Jessica Jones Season 2? And why this book not only is a good Daredevil book, but it fills you in on Jessica Jones. Nuke is the villain. At the end of Daredevil Born Again. That is the guy who's taking pills and powering himself up.
Psycho ex-military kid.
In Jessica Jones Season 2.
Oh, no, I didn't make that connection at all. That's awesome. No, I totally did not make that connection. Now I gotta go back and watch Jessica Jones Season 2 and reread the graphic novel.
So, if you are a fan of Jessica Jones Season 2, there is a character there who is a government agent that has government-issued drugs, different colors, red, white, and blue, to do different things. His debut was in Daredevil's Born Again by Frank Miller, and they used him in a brilliant way.
Oh, and speaking of crossovers, I totally forgot that towards the end of this graphic novel, we actually get to see Captain America.
It's true.
And he actually gets in a fight with Daredevil.
So now at this point, we've seen Captain America in Alias, in the first graphic novel of Alias, and in Daredevil.
And in Daredevil.
Which, there is a lot more crossover. Obviously, the comics are easier to do that. Bear, who is my
guinea pig?
My person that does not generally read comic books based on Born Again. You keep reading Daredevil?
Oh, hell yeah. After reading that, I wanted to see Vincent D'Onofrio
play that Kingpin?
Practicing and, like, kicking the hell out of people. Because that's what he does in there, is he's still a great martial artist.
Well, we see in the series the car scene.
Well, yeah, we see him destroy people, and we get a lot more of the Michael Clark Duncan
physical.
I'm really kind of the super strength guy.
Right.
And we get a little bit of that in actually multiple scenes. We see the car scene in season 1, and so we know that he is super strong. I actually really kind of wanted to see Vincent D'Onofrio, pictured that in my head when I was reading the graphic novel of Vincent D'Onofrio just in this circle, gladiator style, with people all around him, and he's like, now I'm going to kick all of your asses.
So last question. Spider-Man has recently become a thing.
I don't know if it's recently. It's reboot after reboot after reboot.
But the newest reboot, I think we can agree on, is the best one.
Oh yeah, out of all of it, they just ignored all previous origin stories and just said, hey, we've got a new actor, we're just going to start from here.
And this one is amazing. This is the Spider-Man we've been waiting for.
This is the best, and I know you're not a fan of kid Spider-Man.
I'm not, because when I started reading the comic, he was already in his 20s and married.
Yeah.
I'm a 90s kid, and Spider-Man hasn't been a teenager since the 60s. But Kingpin is a big Spider-Man villain. So, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
I'm already thinking about this, what you're about to say.
D'Onofrio or Duncan Clark? If he was still alive.
Versus
the new Tom Holland Spider-Man. If there was a movie now where you bring Kingpin in.
No, I gotta do D'Onofrio. I love Michael Clark Duncan, but Vincent D'Onofrio's just sheer rage, just that he's the Magneto of the universe.
Excellent. Excellent comparison.
I am not a bad person. I am trying to make this better for everybody. And so he is the bad guy that doesn't believe he's a bad guy.
Have you watched any of the Spider-Man video game that came out last year?
No, not the most recent one, no.
One of the first things that happens is Spider-Man puts Kingpin away.
Oh, really?
What he says as they're taking him out, he looks right at Spider-Man and says, "You're going to regret this because I was holding everything together." And the rest of the game is gang wars.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. Because he's got the entire underworld under his thumb.
Yes. Crime is going to happen no matter what. At least there's one person to organize it.
I'm the one lawful evil person of the group.
Right. That is the one aspect I wish they would have gone into in the Netflix series. They kind of touched on it in the Affleck movie.
How so?
He does talk about, I united everyone, and that is why the city is not in chaos. And that's, that's the idea
I vaguely recall that
of the Kingpin. Is he's, yes, I am profiting off of all of this, but really, there is not chaos because I am controlling the chaos.
But the thing that I appreciate more out of the Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin is he really feels upset when he has to upset the status quo and basically absorb somebody else. Now, granted, it's because he probably just offed them. But
he had to.
He had to because they did something stupid or they did something that outed him. But he still felt bad about it. I wish I didn't have to do this, but he had to die, and so I just mushed his head in with a car door.
And I'm going to just go and stare at a white wall.
Parting thoughts?
Go and read Born Again, man. It's Frank Miller.
It's really a long game. It's a lot like Lucifer was. You're playing the long game from the get-go, and that's exactly what Kingpin is doing. You're not going to see the fruits of his labor within the first 50 pages. It's going to take a few pages to develop.
But we've also, on this show, talked about Warren Ellis, and we've talked about Neil Gaiman, and we've talked about Alan Moore, the greats. Frank Miller is on that list.
Yes,
absolutely. He is one of the greats. He did Dark Knight Returns, which is one of the quintessential Batman stories. He's just great.
And with that, I think it's time to take it away, Vandella.
Take it away, Vandella.
Come with me, I'll tell a story that you might have heard before. Graphically novel, but the same old trouble. Villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same. Do 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 do. Come at me, and I'll show you something you ain't never seen before. Right or wrong, oh can't we all just get along? My mask is no different than yours. Pretty pictures on the screen, but nothing's ever as it seems. Do 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 do. You don't want to see my